This episode of the podcast is brought to you by New Bloom Labs.
Many labs can't resolve the various THC molecules, but did you know that New Bloom Labs has the best analysis of Delta-8 THC material in the industry? They deliver precise analysis of Delta-8, Delta-9, and Delta-10. And did I mention that New Bloom Labs has the best turnaround time in the industry? They always provide next business day turnaround on potency tests and 1 to 2 business day turnaround on most toxin screenings. They're ISO certified and DEA registered, so you know their science is first rate. I'm telling you, the guys at New Bloom Labs are the real deal. With locations in Tennessee and Texas and more to come soon, New Bloom Labs provides precise, accurate analysis and the best turnaround time in the industry. Cannabis producers, it's time to stop stressing about your third-party labs. Call New Bloom Labs at 844-TEST-CBD or visit their website at newbloomlabs.com. Superior science, rapid results, New Bloom Labs.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by KC Consulting.
Managing your social media marketing can be very stressful. The idea of creating high quality content on a regular basis, then publishing that content on a daily basis, and then responding and monitoring comments that come in can be a daunting task. Social media marketing is especially challenging when operating a business in cannabis, which is the most highly regulated industry in the market. KC Consulting is a premier social media marketing agency based in Dallas, Texas that specializes in strategy, content creation, channel management, paid advertising, graphic design, and SEO, SEM services. KC Consulting is hyper-focused on helping cannabis companies navigate through the uncharted waters that they've been forced to endure due to the lack of FDA regulation in regards to sales and marketing messaging. When your social media marketing plans or lack thereof seem too daunting and overwhelming, it's important to have a trusted social media marketing partner to ensure your presence is healthy and active. Don't take on the burden of managing your social media channels alone. Take control of your social media marketing with KC Consulting. Email them today for a free quote at social@kcconsulting.co. That's social@kcconsulting.co. Add value, not noise. KC Consulting. Hello everyone, Kevin Carrillo here, and welcome to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast. My guest today is Dr. Lola Ohonba, founder and CEO at WCI Health.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. All right, we're recording. Dr. O, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kevin? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you so much for making time for me in the audience today.
Sure.
So, hey, for everyone listening, I have Dr. Lola Ohonba on the episode today. She's the founder and CEO at WCI Health, which is an alternative health and wellness online-based company created to address the misconceptions surrounding hemp-derived CBD and cannabis plant and medicinal herbs in general. So, Dr. O, first and foremost, let's talk about your background. So I know that when we initially met over the phone before recording, you mentioned your background and you grew up in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was born. Yeah.
You were born in Nigeria?
Yes. I was born in Nigeria. I had my early education out there, and then I later moved down here to United States to go to school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear all about that journey. But let's first set the stage and just tell us a little bit about the history of cannabis as medicine in Nigeria and kind of how, the people in Nigeria kind of saw the plant as possibly alternative medicine and maybe for other things.
Yeah, first of all, before I go on, we have to always look out for the great FDA disclaimer.
Sure.
This show is for educational purpose. We are not claiming healing or cure anything like that. Basically, If you are listening and you need medical advice, consult with your physician, and do not start or stop any medication without talking to your doctor first. So, having said that, like I said, I grew up in Nigeria. Uh, my mom died when I was very little, but out there you have a free life. We play on the street. You just do what you do. You as a little girl running around running around the street in the rain and all that stuff. Those were cool stuff that I grew up with. I remember as early as probably in my 6 years old, 7 years old, we had a mango tree at the back of our house, like a mango tree. Whenever any of us is sick or you have a fever, they don't take you to the hospital first. Contrary to what is believed in Western world, that Africa, oh, it's kind of like a it's kind of like a jungle. It's not really like that. Nigeria is one of the top 10 oil producing country in the entire world. Chevron, Shells. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, so Chevron, Shell, they are all there as a major company that are tapping into the natural resources like oil and stuff. So it's not really like they don't have a hospital or that.
It's
They
a
do.
there's a misconception, right? People think that it's kind of
Yeah,
third world country that, doesn't have much, but it's very established is what you're saying, right? Because of
yeah.
oil production and other things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like here we have the haves and the have not. Over there, it's just that one of their major problem is government doesn't work. Other than that, they have most of the stuff we have in Western world is just mismanagement that's going on there. So, but growing up, I remember my parents, they don't, and they're not the only one. Almost everybody, when you're sick with fever, malaria, they just get you some medicinal herbs. That's my introduction to medicinal herb growing up.
Hmm.
I remember, like I said, we had a mango tree, lemongrass tree at the back of my house. When we are sick, they just grab some of these leaves and the back, they cut the back and just a body, then give it to you.
Wow.
It is not, it's not pleasant. It doesn't taste good. It doesn't smell good. But you got to realize that that is the topping that we see in cannabis and cannabinoid. They are all plants. They are botanicals. Cannabis, psilocybin, ginger, garlic. All these are botanical plants that nature has given unto us. And for us, as early as that time, I mean, fast forward to when I became a pharmacist and I start to think.
Well, let me pause you. So we'll take it kind of step by step. So when you were a young girl in Nigeria and you had that mango tree, so what exactly did mango and the leaves of the mango tree do to help with certain things, and how is that similar to like how you mentioned cannabis being a botanical, ginger, garlic, other things? Like how is it all kind of relevant and related?
So then I didn't understand what I was doing. As a girl, they just give you, you just drink. But me as a clinical pharmacist, with extensive background in how drugs, medication works, I find out, came to realize that what they are actually tapping into is the quinone in the mango. These are phytocannabinoid, and when I say these are plant chemicals, like the flavonoid that we see in the plants. All those toppings that you see in your orange, like when you peel your orange, that smells. Those are toppings. So all plants have that, and basically what they were tapping into was the quinone, which is very good, which is what big farmers kind of tap into to make some of the medication that we use. Look at, for example, look at morphine, which is our pain medicine.
Mm-hmm.
This was originally discovered from plants, from poppy seed,
Right.
poppy flower, and even aspirin, and all those non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Aspirin was discovered from bark of birch leaf, you know. So most of these plants, most of the medicine we even use right now, they are actually derived from plants, then use genetic to synthesize them in a lab. So cannabis is really the same. It's a plant.
Right. So was that so okay, so now that's a great explanation. That makes so much sense. And that's been echoed on the podcast where people say terpenes are found in all plant life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's different kind of medicinal or therapeutic benefits outside of the aroma and the smells that the terpenes produce. So
Mm-hmm.
was that okay, so now let's kind of talk through, so was that your initial interest and kind of driving force to get into the clinical pharmacist kind of role, or what was it?
For me, I had polio when I was a little girl. I had that polio growing up, so that kind of stem my interest in medicine. That was part of when I was growing up. I felt like I wanted to be a blessing to other people, to try to give back that way. And initially, I was going to go to med school, but I decided to do pharmacy. And I went there that route. But that was actually what brought me into healthcare. But like I don't really think about medicinal herbs. It's kind of like part of my life, who I am, part of my upbringing. So me having that knowledge, then coming into medicine, pharmaceutics, it kind of always work hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the medicinal herbs that I used as a little girl, I still do it myself today. That's how it's been like inbuilt in, even with conventional therapy, pharmaceutics. I still go back to those medicinal herbs. But when I was growing up out there, when it comes to cannabis, just like here in the state, they see it as a drug, as a illicit drug out there too. So normally you are told, don't mess with it, don't touch it, don't play with it. We grow up like that too, you know.
Right.
The lies they spread out here was spread maybe more in Africa, and you got to realize indica and sativa, all these cannabis, initially they were from India, they were from Africa. So they were really involved in that. When the life starts spreading out here, of course, it spread over there as well.
Yeah. What do the penalties look like in Nigeria, say if you're caught with cannabis?
It's just like here, it's just first of all, the stigma is the most damaging part of it. It's not even you being locked up or anything. It's just the stigma over there when you smoking weed.
Like you're a loser or you're a criminal.
You're a loser. We had a musician. He is a genius. When you look back, when you get a chance, Google Fela, Fela.
Okay.
He is an artist, a musician back in Nigeria. Then he was like a radical, just like them Steve D'Angelo, Jack Herer type of. He was one of those guys that was against the government. All his music was towards attacking the government about
Establishment,
not
like anti-establishment music.
anti-establishment, but it was really a cannabis heavy user. He was a smoker. He said this plant is for us, and he used it heavily. His backup dancers, they all use it. So, and he was very, very talented. Fela was one of the best in the world, to tell you the truth. When you get a chance, Google Fela, you will love him. I'm telling you. So it was just the same. They lock you up like here, regular, but people like that guy, Fela Anikula Pukuti, were the one that said, no, don't do that. This is a great medicine for us.
Wow. So they're
Yeah.
the ones that kind of stood up against the government and the lies that were being spread about cannabis, and really stood up for the people and spoke for it in advocacy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned like how the stigma has spilled over to places like Nigeria where you grew up, and I would imagine, in all parts of the world, right? I mean, we're seeing that the UN finally kind of made a move to put it to vote where we would deschedule cannabis at the global level under the single convention treaty
Mm-hmm.
within the WHO. So let's talk about why cannabis and all plant medicine, for that matter, should be declassified from the Schedule One drugs. And I would say not just descheduled, but totally removed from the classification. I mean, you're a clinical pharmacist. You understand, the plant and the benefits and whatnot. And it doesn't make sense that it's listed as a Schedule One narcotic, because under that definition, the narcotic or the drug would cause harm. Yet cannabis does not, right?
Absolutely, Kevin. It just doesn't even make no sense. I mean, you are doing a great job with this show. That's I've listened to a lot of your shows. You bring quality people, professionals up here. And I'm sure your listeners have heard so many times when people say, okay, back in the days, people were using it for this, we're using it for that. I'm not even gonna go, I'm not even gonna go into that, because they know how many stuff we've been using it for, you know. As you know, but cannabis have been in the pharmacopoeia, that's the pharmaceutical book, the main book of pharmaceutics for years.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about classification of drugs, that's why one of the reasons why I even get into this space. That's why I'm so passionate about it. When you talk about classification of drug, you're talking about class one drug. We have 5 class. For class one drugs, that means they are the most addictive drugs in the whole planet. There is no medicinal use for it. It's a highly psychoactive. In fact, basically, it's like the great, the worst of the worst.
And we can
And
call some of those narcotics out. I would say methamphetamine is one, right? It really
mm-hmm,
has no medicinal benefit. It's highly physically addictive.
mm-hmm,
That fits that category, right?
mm-hmm.
Can-
That's where
Go ahead.
that's where they put cannabis.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Kevin, you won't even believe it. We have cocaine in Schedule 2. So you're talking to me, when you talk about Schedule 2, you're talking about there is a potential benefit. You can still use it for some medicinal purpose. Duh. Hello, you're telling me now we can use cocaine for some medicinal purposes. We cannot use cannabis. Cannabis has been used for generations for anything. Pharmaceutical company, doctor's offices compounded this stuff and sell it to their clients. You know, now you're telling me, how did we go from it being used for everything, manage anything under the sun, to it being the most dangerous drug on the planet?
Yeah.
There's the connect right there, you know. And cocaine, we can use cocaine, fentanyl, they are all in the Schedule 2. Do you know how many people fentanyl, oxycodone, oxymorphone have killed?
Probably more people. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine a lot, a lot.
And guess what? Not a single soul. We do not have data that say cannabis has caused overdose for anybody. Not one. We don't have data on that.
It's almost like we've gotten hung up on one molecule or one cannabinoid in the cannabis plant, and that's THC, because it has that psychoactive effect where it makes you high, right? And so we've demonized the plant. We've kind of targeted a certain racial group and demonize them for the plant. And there's been lies that have been spread over the past 70 years, and we've really lost out on learning truly about the medicinal benefits when it comes to all the cannabinoids that we've discovered at this point, right? CBD, CBG, CBN. There's much more to the plant than just THC.
Even THC is very, very important.
Right.
You cannot even demonize THC. That's medicine.
It's
See, even the side effect that you get from a product like THC, you can harness it and use it in other aspects of medicine. For example, they said, okay, it has a short-term memory loss. It's a short-term, they have clinical studies have shown that it's not a permanent loss. It's just a short-term thing. But that short-term memory loss, do you know you can harness it to help people that have post-traumatic stress disorder? Because part of what's going on in PTSD is all this horror that folks have witnessed, especially with war, all this never-ending war, victim of rape, all kind of stuff. The horror that is built in there, this THC can help them to forget. So
yeah.
even decide when you start talking about the side effect, even we can, if we are smart, we can even harness the side effect to our own advantage. If you say, okay, it causes sleeplessness, it doesn't help you to sleep. There are people that are suffering from what we call in medicine, we call it narcolepsy. That means you just sleep, daytime sleepiness. You just keep sleeping during the day. For people like that, we could use that quote unquote side effect to help them to manage. Even there's no limit to what we can do with this plant.
Yeah.
Nature is good to us.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is good.
You make a great point. Like, we can use these cannabinoids to our advantage if we use them smartly and in the right way, because inherently, like I've said before, our endocannabinoid system is biologically married to these cannabinoids, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have our CB1 receptor, our CB2 receptor that interact with these. And so if we could just dial it in and understand what cannabinoid we need for certain ailments, that could be huge. It could be a game changer. And I agree with you. There is good that comes from THC. I just meant that because, it gets you high. I feel like the government and other, people opposing the plan have kind of honed in on that one aspect. And
They've made it a boogeyman.
man, exactly, the reefer madness, all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's been people that have lost out on their livelihoods, and they've been locked up, and and over time for petty non-violent crimes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good to see that as more popular support is growing for the plant, that those injustices are addressed, and that these people are being let out.
Yeah. And it's for part of the work that people like you are doing. You get what I'm saying? The more we keep fighting and not give up, eventually I feel they will eventually listen to us, because we've done so much injustice, not just to people, even to ourselves. You know how many people have died that would have benefited from the medicinal properties of these plants?
A lot.
We go to the store, we buy ginger, we buy garlic, we buy St. John's wort. Does that mean that cannabinoid or cannabis is a wonder drug? No, we're not claiming that if it's medicine, you won't go and grab your Tylenol or acetaminophen, as the case may be, and just gulp it down, you know. So we have to start. That's what part of why I'm in this space. We have to start treating it as a medicine, and give the proper education, and really bring in professionals that knows about not just one side of the medicine, that knows the other side as well. That's part of why I'm unique, because I have a background in medicinal herbs, and I also have that background in pharmaceutics, disease state, how drug work, how medicine work. So I feel like we need more people to come in, and enlighten people and educate people. And there's a limit to what bartenders can do. The laws is restrictive to them. There are some of my programs I get towards dispensary, healthcare professionals, medicinal herbs enthusiasts. I'm trying to educate them on some of the programs I'm trying to come up with, to educate them not just about the good about this medicine, but also about the potential side effect. We have to start anticipating the resistance from the government and start addressing it before they bring it to us. That's part of why what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I want to dive deeper into the great work that you're doing, Dr. O. And so, and I appreciate the kind words you said about what I'm doing with the podcast and trying to educate people. And I understand that you have a podcast as well, don't you?
Yes, I have a podcast, but this is Kevin. Yours is really great. I do a lot of things. So I started the podcast. Let's talk about medical cannabis with Dr. O. Part of the reason I do is I look at various disease states, and I look at traditional pharmaceutics that we use in the management of these diseases, like your sleep disorder, zopidem. I'll talk to you about what zopidem is doing, then talk to you about the side effect. Then I bring in cannabinoid cannabis, and try to compare the benefit we can do. Because look at, say, like sleep disorder, the medicine that we use for treatment of sleep disorder, like insomnia, Ambien, our zopidem, this drug, in some people, it even causes what we call rebound insomnia. Rebound insomnia means this medicine is supposed to help you to sleep, but it's keeping you awake.
And if you stay up for too long, I've heard on Ambien you can hallucinate. Is that right?
All of them are there. You will sleepwalk. You can get up and not know what you are doing. You can sleep drive. You can get in your car and drive off. Whereby common cannabis, you take a little bit, be it edible, be it in the smoke, be it in the transdermal patches, in any form you take it, you relax and you sleep, and you're not a danger to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know?
I love that you do that. That you provide that comparison data. You know what I mean? You give them
Mm-hmm.
kind of the traditional medicine that they would take that's over the counter or whatever, and then
Mm-hmm.
compare it with something like cannabis. And I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
just even though it seems very basic and whatnot, it's so important for someone to see that,
Yeah.
kind of a comparison right firsthand. And so what's their reaction? Like, are they surprised with the differences of cannabis to that traditional medicine?
I mean, people are opening up towards it. I need to step it up a little bit, a little bit in the new year. I'm gonna do more. It's like I'm so passionate about this plant. Every time my head is always going on, how else can I get out there and bring knowledge to people? So I'm gonna be doing more of the podcast in the new year. Like I said, I'm creating a course that is gonna be available first quarter of this coming year. That is gonna be for healthcare professionals, dispensary, regular folks will be able to get in there and learn more of this. So I'm gonna also step it up. But people that listen, they have really we've had a great feedback about it. how, because what I'm doing is taking all the medical jargons out of it.
Right.
All those medical jargon, nobody want to hear that. Average person on the street don't know. I'm trying to break it down into everybody's level while we are removing all the medical jargons, you know. So people are really uh, receptive towards it.
Yeah, simplicity is key. It's
Exactly, exactly.
I mean, because most people aren't totally immersed in the healthcare industry or the medical profession, and so that medical jargon and whatnot can just kind of sometimes go over your head. So
Yeah, yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
and don't beat yourself up about the podcast because you've got your hands in so many different
I
things.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're well on your way. And when you start to do more episodes next year, we definitely want to be sure to share those and get them out. So
That would be awesome. Thank
we
you for that. That would be awesome for sure.
us cannabis podcasters got to look out for one another.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a small community. You see, we have to stick together. We in the cannabis space, we have to work together because we are fighting the. I'm not saying lobbying is not good, but we are trying to compete with the big farmers, the big corporation, and their big pockets and their lobbying. All we got is our little coins and our knowledge,
Right, right.
and that's why we have to stick together and stand up for each other, you know.
Yeah.
Anytime you need me, just get the phone, I'm running.
We're gonna get your contact info at the end here, but so I totally agree, Dr. O. And you know what I hope does not happen in the coming years is the industry internally kind of getting divided, because you have your legacy THC cultivators and operators, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the adult states, and then you have the Farm Bill passing in 2018, which makes nationwide hemp cultivation legal, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and I hope that there isn't this internal competition
Mm-hmm.
or opposition
Oh, I got there first. That's me first. I got here first.
and that's what I'm saying. And one, because we know that there's going to need to be zoning laws in place for outdoor grows for hemp and THC because of cross pollination issues.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, like to your point, like it shouldn't matter who was there first or whatnot. There should be an exchange of learnings and ideas, so that the industry as a whole can evolve and move on. Right? We don't need to segment the industry or divide it at this point because we're all fighting the same cause and the same goal.
You are very right, because see, the Bible says something. It says one will chase 1,000, two will chase how many? 10,000. Can you imagine how many? That's how my definition when I talk about toppings for cannabis and topping. I'm always like, okay, one is chasing 1,000, two is chasing 10,000. We gotta be together. You get what? Especially here in United States. Europe, they are going way ahead of us. They are like, I always tell people, cannabis declassification is not just a health issue. It's an economic issue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much this legalizing, I mean, federally legalizing this product and giving it to people, do you know how much it will generate in our economy? It's an economic issue. It's a health issue. It's a women's issue. Women,
It's an environmental issue, right? Yeah.
it's all in one. And look at how the good that hemp as a product can even do. What can you not do with a hemp?
Right.
If I'm stuck in a deserted island and they ask me what am I gonna bring, wanting to bring, I'm bringing cannabis seed. That's it.
Right. And
It's not
I didn't mean to cut you off. Tell me you were going to get into it's a women's issue. Explain that.
a women's issue, because see, women, especially here, we are like the forefront of everything. We are in charge of our household. We are in charge of health. We are in charge of the children. you guys don't want to go to the doctor. We got to drag you there. We got to drag you there. So when you take money from the women's pocket, you're taking from the whole family. So when you restrict this market, this space, you're doing a lot of injustice to the women. And when also talk about health issue, when we talk about some people, they have like PMS, a very severe menstrual pain. Depression is higher in women compared to men. And some of these ailment, medicinal herbs have been shown to be able to help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when we look at all that situation, we're realizing that women are really gonna be the key. And a lot of the time we are pushed to the back burner, but it's our issue too, because we need these plans for the whole totality of the women.
Yeah. No, I read about that in the in Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes.
Yeah.
You know, the queens back in the day used to
Oh,
take cannabis for their menstrual cycles and other things, you know.
you
So
know what I say, Kevin? I said if it's good for the queen, it might as well be good for the commoners like us.
that's exactly right. Amen to that. I totally agree. So Dr. O, what do you see the future of cannabis in the US and say even abroad? You know, you being raised in Nigeria, like what does the future hold for this plant?
Right now, like in South Africa, right now they've legalized cannabis. Their Supreme Court, what did they say? They said this is a fundamental human rights of their people. It does that mean the laws, everything is not perfect. They're still working through a whole bunch of hurdles. But in Ghana, that's a country right beside Nigeria, they have legalized hemp. Nigeria, they haven't done that yet, you know. But here, Europe, man, Europe is going like this.
How so? How so? What are they doing in Europe?
Europe, they are a lot of them are being receptive towards the product. They are legalizing, like the United Nations, the World Health Organization released, like you mentioned recently. Those are positive move. And Australia, they do have medicinal cannabis and stuff. So many of them are putting down the frameworks
Mm-hmm.
already. And it's not like we are not doing it here,
We're
but
we're doing it with little to no federal regulation, right? I mean, it's just like kind of the Wild West. The states are really the ones that are leading the charge.
yeah, the states are leading the charge, but I'm kind of worried. I don't want us to be left behind. President Bush said no child left behind. I don't want us to be left behind because they are cultivating, they are growing this seed, they are doing research while we are still sitting here uh wringing our hands waiting on the Congress. I mean, this, like you said, the states are doing what they could, but I think within the next 5 years, things are going to improve. You get what I'm saying? But at the same time, the power that be needs to understand that this is an economic issue. With COVID, see what COVID has done. COVID is a monster.
It's a monster. Yeah.
What is done to our economy, we need to get in there and start developing. And like you said, there's no need for people to fight. We need to rally around each other and support each other. You're not going to carry a whole bunch of cannabis and say, oh, we're going to need people to develop technology, all those. So everybody, the old and the new needs to come together. The educational part of it, like somebody like us needs to step in there and let's say, but at the end of the day, it's about health.
Yeah.
It is about health. Look at cancer, all kind of stuff that we can do research to really dive in.
What do you think it is, Dr. O? Like especially when it comes to policymakers at the federal level, like is it a lack of understanding when it comes to, like we talked about, the medicinal, economic, environmental uh benefits of the plant? Is it they're married to these lies that have been fed to the American people for 70 plus years? Like what is it exactly? What's their trepidation to move forward?
You know what it is? It's two things. First is politics. When we take public funding out of politics, we are going to get somewhere. The second one, that's really the first, to tell you the truth. Big farmers, corporation, lobby, they don't want anything botanical. They don't want cannabis to see the days of life. Do you know what will happen to companies that are making oxycodone? Cannabis is the pain is the number one reason why people use cannabis, pain. THC is 20 times has anti-inflammatory properties compared to your Tylenol and Aleve and all that stuff. Pharmaceutical company, big farmers, they will have to pack up and sell their houses in Cayman Island if cannabis is legalized. That is why they are fighting tooth and nail to prevent it from coming to light. What's going to happen to them? Nobody's going to want to take oxycodone anymore. I mean, there's people still going to take it. I'm not saying this medicine are not good. We are not going to heal everything with cannabis.
Sure.
That's part of why I'm here. We are not going to heal everything, cure everything with cannabis. We still need our conventional therapy. But the pharmaceutical company, the big pharma, the corporation, they are very greedy. Mm-hmm. And what do? They send lobbyists to Washington and keep giving money to the politicians. That's all this is about. It's been about politics from the beginning. It's now. It's politics and big pharma.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, and even taking it a step further to your point of like, it's a threat to industry and in your example, it being big pharma. But, this, when we look back at the history of cannabis, the plant was also a threat to many other industries as well, right? I mean, cotton, uh, even now they're talking about different biofuels that they can make out of cannabis and hemp. So like, petroleum industry is another one. So there is, I totally agree that there's this sense of this fight and this pushback against the plant because it's ultimately going to threaten these industries' bottom lines,
But at the end of the day, what they need to realize is that we can always develop. You get what I'm saying? We can't just be stagnant and say, oh, we're going to resist. We can develop and move into the new generation.
Yeah, we gotta look at other kind of alternatives and different ways. Like you said, this isn't the end all be all cure all, but we need to at least consider and learn more about these botanical alternative medicines because what we're currently doing, I mean, it may be working for some, but there's other drawbacks ultimately as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dr. O, before we wrap up, talk to us a little bit about what projects you're currently working on and what you're really looking forward to in the next year.
Yeah, thank you for that. First of all, before I go in there, I don't want us to finish. I told you anytime you need me, you are doing a great job with this podcast. I get a lot of educational stuff from listening to it. It's just you are a pace setter in this field, and I really do appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say that.
I appreciate.
You did not tell me to say that. I just said it by myself. Like I said, I do a podcast too, so I know how hard it is to put these stuff together, and you've done an excellent job.
Thank you.
So for the new year, I have a Glows Beauty. That's one of our beauty lines. We have beauty Glows Beauty, WCI Glows Beauty. We have hair care products, skin care. But like I said, my main focus in the space is education. So I have my book. It's a little guide.
Okay, and it for people just listening, the book is entitled. Go ahead and I can't see it. Go ahead.
A Pharmacist's Guide to Cannabis, Perspective of a Non-Conforming Clinician. So basically, this is a basic, especially for dispensary, you need to explain, you don't need to explain toppings, how combination of toppings to your clients anymore. If you grab this book and just give it to them, or maybe they buy it at your store, it explains everything. It helps them to choose the best product for them. It's basically a basic guide. It can help new people that are coming into the space to understand what cannabinoid, all those cool stuff in a layman term with zero jargons. Other than that, I'm working on a course for healthcare professional, dispensary, and cannabis enthusiasts that is going to combine all what we do. It will help explain various disease states, what type of toppings to use in a layman term that people can just understand. So that's what I'm working on this year. Even by next first quarter of the year, I'm hoping the courses will come out. And in the nearest future, I'm also going to be releasing a course on psychedelic psilocybin. That's a very huge part of my stuff, because I did a podcast on mental health, cannabis and mental health. And psilocybin has been shown, John Hopkins, they're doing a whole bunch of research on depression and all that stuff. So I'm passionate about everything medicinal herbs, and we're going to be working on that field as well.
Wow. Well, you're sounds like you're really busy with all these.
I am. We got to keep going, man. We can, I mean,
Hey,
we got only one life to live, Kevin.
that's right.
Just do it.
The education never stops also, because we're learning more and more every day about the plant. So
Mm-hmm.
we can't stop now. We got to carry on with this momentum. And I'm excited. I'm going to definitely look into your book on Amazon, A Pharmacist's Guide to Cannabis. I have grandparents who are starting to take CBD now and whatnot, and my parents are kind of facilitating that. And so I think that book will be very beneficial to my mom as she's kind of learning more about the plant and dosing and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and I have, when it comes to dosing, they start low, you go slow. I have a little bit about dosing there as well.
perfect. Yeah. So you guys heard it. I mean, if you're interested in properly medicating with cannabis and doing it the right way, check out Dr. O's book.
It's on my website as well, wci-health.com.
WCI-health.com. Perfect. And the other thing, Dr. O, that I wanted to tell you before we wrap up is you're talking about psychedelics and specifically psilocybin as it relates to mental health. And I'm starting to really talk more about psychedelics and have guests on. I've had Shelby Hartman on from Double Blind Magazine, and Stephen Gottlieb on talking about Ibogaine. So part 2, when you get on again, is let's talk about mental health and psychedelics.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I'm game.
Awesome. Well, hey, Dr. O, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been a pleasure. And I know that our audience truly got a lot out of it today as well. So I can't wait to talk to you in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Have a good one. Yes, sir.